Okay. Yay. Okay, now it's recording. Okay. So first of all, before I do an intro, I just wanted to, and I kind of already told you, but that it's very much just a candid conversation, and it's funny because Shmuel sent me like a long list of you don't have to take any of my suggestions, but by the way, this and this, and he's a complete intellectual, so all of his ideas are
I know.
all this history and I didn't know half of the stuff he was telling me. It was all, some of it was new to me, but in a way I kind of didn't want to know, because my curiosity is on new knowledge that I didn't know yet, so I want to be able to ask you. But also, technically, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and curiosity breeds knowledge.
That
but
is so
knowledge
true.
Also breeds curiosity, right? So
that is so true. So true.
Okay, so first of all, I would say welcome, but it doesn't feel like a suit. I feel like I'm the guest, even though it's my podcast. Oh, Drizzle came to show me that there's an ant. Very cool. So first of all, welcome to Blunt with Rachel Sam. And for everyone listening, I'm assuming that maybe you don't, maybe you do, but if in the miraculous chance that you don't know who he is, this is Dov Hikind, and I have the honor to interview him today. And he is, honestly, I know that you're an activist, and I know that you maybe an assemblyman or something like that.
Well, I was a member of the New York State Assembly for 36 years.
Oh wow.
That's representing Borough Park and Midwood, and at one point Diker Heights, and now we have an organization the past 3 years called Americans Against Antisemitism. I wish we didn't, but we all know what's going on today.
I wish we didn't have to. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunately what I'm busy with.
Wow. So you're not busy being the assemblyman thingy?
Right. I'm not in elective office anymore. And
okay.
I did that for 36 years. When I left office, I thought that I'd be doing other things. I didn't know that I'd be involved full time in this war against hate against the Jewish people. So, but that's what I'm doing. The last 3 years, we have this tax exempt organization, and we try to do whatever we can. Everyone has to.
How do you what do you do to actively, because anti-Semitism in the form that when it's, first of all, when it's in action, it's already done. When it's, so there's an aftermath, but it's more, I'm assuming, about prevention. And if it's combating, it's probably for verbally, things that happen verbally, because it's something that happens in action, obviously it's too late.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? It's just a matter of if someone's talking and you talk back. So how do you have an organization based on, let's say, talking or whatever? What do you get to do that helps for that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's no simple answer when it comes to hate against the Jewish people, which is something that is not new. It's been there. It will always be there. And the only question is what can we actually do? And that's a very complicated answer. One thing for sure, doing nothing is not reality. To say, well, we're living in gullus, as they say. We're living in, we Jews have to go through this, and whatever it is, thank God. That's not acceptable, because we know what happened back in the 1930s.
And like Elie Wiesel said, bad things don't just happen because bad people do bad things. It's because good people stand by and do nothing. So
oh my God, what you said now is so important. Yeah. Because often we know who the anti-Semites are, whether it's even in the United States Congress right now. Congress member Tlaib and Omar, the whole group of literally, they're a bunch of anti-Semites, support BDS, all of that. I mean, they're doing
Unabashedly, like openly. It's not even,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
become trendy because they can do it in the name of anti-Zionism, which
Precisely.
is technically
They
synonymous.
introduced a resolution with the Nakba, which is the creation of the state of Israel. And the whole thing is just an absolute, it's lie and more lies and more lies. It's sort of what, Goebbels, the propaganda minister of Nazi Germany, said, if you repeat a lie often enough, people believe it. So we tried, to address what's going on. Number one, I appear on a lot of TV shows. By the way, I never solicit being in an interview. We get requests, radio, television, newspapers, to react to things that are going on. And
so how do you in the first place have this voice where people know to contact you based on this?
Well, first, I've spent my entire life being involved. Way before I was elected.
Like, how do you get involved? How does that work where you're like, okay, I'm against this? Where do you go to say, like, okay, put me on the mic, I want to talk against anti-Semitism?
I don't. So because of the fact that I have been involved all my life, going back before I was an elected official, I was involved in the Jewish Defense League with Rabbi Meir Kahane. Now, a lot of people, who are going to watch this or were watching this, they have no idea. Jewish Defense League, I mean, that's a whole different story. Rabbi Meir Kahane created in the 1970s to fight anti-Semitism, to fight the Soviet Jewry and all. And
you're saying like artillery, or you're saying verbally?
Well, we were involved in, look, I was arrested many, many times in my in fighting for Soviet Jewry. Many times.
Why would they arrest you?
Well, for instance, this goes back chaining myself with 12 other people to the Soviet mission.
What's the Soviet mission? Excuse me.
Soviet mission is it's still there on East 67th Street in Manhattan. It is the building. It's a huge building. It's where the Soviet government has its diplomats, the families. It's like a big apartment house on East 67th Street. I used to almost live there in the sense that I would always be demonstrating. I would always be in the streets.
Wait, so you were protesting the fact that they were offering refuge or whatever, or like a place to be for people that were promoting communism?
We were protesting because 3 million Jews in those days were prisoners in the Soviet Union, and you couldn't leave. You couldn't, if you studied Hebrew, you could go to jail. I mean, our people, 3 million of our people were being spiritually annihilated. So I was involved in fighting for our people. It's a simple thing.
Were you protesting for the people that were there to see what you were saying, or to Americans to get them out?
We were fighting for the people that were in the Soviet Union.
But what constituted the fact that you should be arrested? What, because you changed yourself?
I'm telling you, simple. Yeah. Our thing was free Soviet Jewry. Let our people go. That was the message back in the 70s. So we would do things that would bring attention to this issue. So 12 of us, I led a group of 12 people who chained themselves to the Soviet mission. The police came, the media came. We were arrested for doing that and spent 2 days at a local precinct or so. But it was part of this activist.
But under the pretext of what? That it was on someone else's property? Like what could
right.
Okay.
In those days, we're living in a different period now, but in those days, anything that went on with regard to the Soviet Union, remember, we're talking now about under communism, the United Soviet Socialist Republics, and Jews were literally prisoners in that situation. And I think what you're asking me, to be honest, a lot of people have longed for, at my Shabbos table a couple of weeks ago, people were sitting there and we started talking about Soviet Jewry, and someone said to me, "What's Soviet Jewry?" So it's part of history.
I was aware that my father actually was in Russia during the time of when it was still communist. Well, now it's pretty bad too, but also Do you think that America is on the trajectory to become a communist country? Because some
Not at
people feel
all.
that that's
No,
conspiratory.
I don't think so. I think we in our country there's tremendous where we're tremendously divided between the left, the right, the extreme left, the extreme right. So
Othering people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think there's reason to be concerned about the future. Look, we're living in a very great country. That
Right.
doesn't mean we don't have problems. It doesn't
Do you
mean we
think
don't.
it adds to anti-Semitism potentially, because when you have two sides divided and they need a scapegoat even more, and they're trying to get back together, so they're like, you know what, let's be friends again. It's really not us, it's the Jews. The right side says that because the Jews are not white, and the left side says that because the Jews are technically not Middle Eastern. So wherever we go, we can't win.
So ultimately, it always ends up that way. Look, the hate comes from the right and it comes from the left. Most of the attacks going on in New York, for instance, unprecedented. We've never had such numbers.
Yeah.
Almost all those attacks are coming from within the minority community. How do I
Right.
know? Because we have video surveillance. We see
Statistics.
who's beating up on Jews. They're black.
Right.
They're
It
Latino.
doesn't take, right. You just
So
need
we see who
eyes.
they are. But the
I
extreme right
see.
is also, I mean, the right in this country is very, very dangerous. So we, at the end of the day, what you said, I think ultimately always happens. And that is, we Jews get blamed for,
Right.
we get blamed for being communists in the old days, and we get blamed for being capitalists. We're like, just blame the Jews. We are 15 million in the whole world, only 15 million Jews.
What percentage of the world is that? Like point.
So listen, out of
0.01?
is it 7 billion or 8 billion? I mean, it's like we are
7
so
billion.
few. We are so few, and nonetheless, the whole world is like preoccupied with Jews, whether it's Israel,
And Israel, yeah.
and so on and so forth. So,
Do you think that it's a spiritual thing that, for example, like in the Torah, when it was talking about Esav or whatever, and there was a hatred between like Esav, Sonet, Yaakov or whatever, do you think that that's something that like there's nothing you can't do anything about? It's innate. They're supposed to hate us. Like, yeah, you should do something about not dying, but they're born with it. They're gonna hate you.
Yeah.
Because
I think
many people are nice.
I think to a great extent, hate, anti-Semitism, hate is just, and by the way, better than anti-Semitism is a better word is Jew hatred. Just hating, people hate Jews, a lot of people out there. And again, that's a complicated, very involved why. Why do they hate us? Like, what did we do? What did you do? What did I do? The answer is nothing, but that's still not a problem for other people to hate us because we are Jews. We're part of the Jewish people. So look, it's all very complicated.
Do you think because in the Torah it says the chosen?
I'm not sure. You know what? I think that's part of it. I think the history of Catholicism and what they are responsible for thousands of years, right? In terms of the Jewish people, we killed Jesus and so on.
Did we?
No.
Oh, okay.
But the point is that the hatred towards the Jewish people comes from so many different places. And while we will never get rid of it, there are things we can do. There are a lot of people out there who are simply ignorant. They don't know. They simply don't know. You have this resolution, as we were saying before, from members of the United States Congress, regarding the Nakba. The day
Does it include BDS?
Yeah, BDS that's all part of it. All these people are part of BDS. They think Israel should be boycotted, divested, and sanctioned.
Right.
And by the way, BDS, I just want to make it very clear. There's no other country in the world. I don't know. There are close to 200 nations in the world, including China.
And many of them have evil.
Right. How many of them have a BDS movement directed against them? None.
Zero.
Only the Jewish people. Only the Jewish state. Isn't that? What does that
well,
tell you?
They have like some restrictions on shipment or whatever, but that's nothing compared to.
No, they don't. There is no BDS movement.
What's the word when like the president puts something on there?
No, I don't know.
Sanctions.
Yeah, right. But that's totally different.
Right.
We're
Because
talking
it
about
doesn't reach like the grassroots of like the
yeah, we're
people
talking
don't buy
about
from them.
movement to boycott, sanction, divest from a country. There is
Primarily
no,
because of where they're born.
yeah. So I'm saying only the state of Israel do you have this movement. No one else. I mean, China has a million Uyghurs, Muslims in
Uyghurs.
concentration camps. Is anybody boycotting China or divesting or sanctioning?
I'm
No.
confused how there's literally a Holocaust happening right there, right now. And we know what happened with our Holocaust, and we're like, never again. And yet it's hard because each person is like, okay, I'm not going to march in China right now by myself. So then each person thinks that's himself. So then nobody does it. So then nothing happens. And it almost makes you wonder, like, okay, is that what happened by the Holocaust? Like each person was like, I mean, I don't want it to happen, but what can I do? I'm just little me.
Yeah.
And then
Look,
nobody does anything.
there are a lot of things to fight for, but I wish the Jews would start with fighting for their own people. Then if you have extra time, you can fight for other causes. The problem is, I got to share something with you. Just in the past week or so, there were demonstrations in Brooklyn on Fifth Avenue and 75th Street. Hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians, Muslims were protesting, and Free Palestine and all kinds of slogans, anti-Semitic slogans. There were other things. Paterson, New Jersey, you had hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians, Muslims demonstrating, et cetera, et cetera. And I got to tell you, I'm jealous. I see all these young Palestinians, Muslims, they're in the streets. I've watched them, Do
you think because they're stronger in numbers in general, they have more people?
I got to tell you, I hardly see anyone past the age of 40. They are active. They are determined. They are so involved. And we, the Jewish people, like, where are we?
I saw a video of one girl dancing around with an Israeli flag against a huge crowd
You cannot get Jews into the streets. You just cannot. To protest, to stand up, to be.
Well, we do have big rallies, but I hear you on the fact that sometimes we're outnumbered, but we are outnumbered in general, like as a nation.
Well, we're not. But we're not organized. That's the problem. We're just not organized. We speak out. We're just not organized. It's very. I'm telling you. I went to a rally. I remember a couple of months ago, after coming back from Israel, outside the Israeli consulate in New York. Shani and I, my wife and I, and we knew there was a rally against Israel there. And we had just come back from Israel, watching the missiles falling, meant to murder men, women, and children. And we went to the Israeli consulate. There were 500 people demonstrating against Israel. The enthusiasm, the excitement, the determination, the dedication of these people. And we were there, me with my yarmulke, my Shani, the police were literally all around us. I said, where are our people? I don't know. I don't know. We talk a lot about.
And by the way, these missiles that fall in Israel, they're indiscriminate. They are supposed to reach anyone. It doesn't matter if you're Arab or not, which also explains the recent Palestinian journalist who there were Palestinian gunmen just running around shooting anywhere. And then their word is the last word when it comes to journalism, because like she was coming from Al Jazeera in general. In Al Jazeera, I mean, it's propaganda.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing with the journalist who was killed. It's terrible when any person.
She was killed by the people she was defending.
Who's innocent. But I'm saying, okay, but isn't it interesting how everyone has determined, without an investigation, that Israel is responsible? Isn't that interesting? You need a scapegoat. You got to blame somebody.
The thing with Israel is like, Golda Meir was saying of how if we loved ourselves the amount that they hate us, what's the saying? I don't
remember I know exactly what you're saying.
Because they're coming out and they're saying, we hate Jews. So it's so much harder when you're the hated one, because also it speaks volumes. Here are people that are fighting for a cause, but they're also saying hateful messages. We hate you. We want you to die. It's not scary for them to go out in the street. They don't feel threatened. They can say, we want to kill you. And yet they're not spoken down to for saying that. And yet Israel activists go out in the street. They're never saying, or if they are, they don't represent the Israeli activists. They're never going out to say, we want to kill anyone. They're going out to say, Am Yisrael Chai. We are going to live on. We don't want to die. Why? Right. So it can be scary for someone that is the hated one rather than the one hating to go out and say, don't hate me, rather than, no, first of all, but it's not an excuse, but I'm saying maybe it explains.
Listen, we need to be proud.
Yeah.
We need to be strong. We are the Jewish people. We've been around for a long time. They've tried to destroy us throughout history. We know that. With the Holocaust being the ultimate example, we're here and we're not going anywhere.
Do you think the Holocaust is the most extreme example, or it's just the most recent, or both?
I think it. Look,
because there have been many other.
Look, when we have Passover and we remember what happened in Egypt, and a lot of terrible things happened.
Inquisition and.
But you know something. I think 6 million Jews in a couple of years, 2 million children, I think has got to rank among one of the worst things that has ever happened in the history of the world.
The Mengele thing, for me, that's the ultimate of the experiments that he did on twins and on pregnant. I think there's just nothing comparable to. It's not just killing people. It was done in a way to cause suffering for a long time before they were killed. For many of them,
absolutely.
Parents in front of their children in front of their parents.
Absolutely.
You have my grandmother was in Auschwitz, and you have
my mother was in Auschwitz.
Your mother was in Auschwitz. Wow. So that what made you feel so
I think
never
that has
again
a lot
about everything?
Yeah. I think when someone in your own family, like your mother and your father, my father was in forced labor camps, and my mother going to Auschwitz in 1944 with her mother, my grandmother, and with other members of her family. And most of the members of her family in 1944, the day they got to Auschwitz, went straight to the gas chambers. We say this, straight to the gas chambers. What did my grandmother do? What did my mother's sisters and brothers and other members of the families, little children, nephews and nieces who were there, little children, what did they do? You know what their crime was? They were Jews.
Being Jewish.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. So that's a reality that it's not just a book. I read something about, Egypt and how they treated our people. This is in our lifetime. And, the question 5 years ago, if someone would have said, can it happen in America? Can we ever be in a situation where, God forbid, really terrible things happen? 5 years ago, people would have said, nah, no way. Yeah, anti-Semitism, but it can't happen. No way. Today, people are not that sure anymore. They really, I talk to people all the time. No one feels like it could never happen. Maybe not the exact same way. So people need to be very serious about this. Right now, you may be walking the streets. Right now, you're taking trips, you're enjoying life and everything else. The people in Europe, the Jews in Germany, they were so proud.
Do you think that there was any way to avoid the Holocaust
then? They were insulted if they were called Jews first. They were Germans first.
They were trying to assimilate to avoid, okay, we're like you, don't hate us, but that actually has the opposite effect.
That's what, by the way.
Do you believe that the Holocaust
doesn't work?
What?
That doesn't work.
Right. Do you believe that the Holocaust could have been avoided, let's say in hindsight, not in a blame way, but in a, okay, this is what we can do this time, but it could have been applied last time if we were armed or something?
The answer, anyone who studies history,
yeah,
the answer is yes.
How?
Absolutely. Because, so many mistakes were made by so many before Hitler came to power, and when Hitler came to power, so many mistakes were made that if things would have been treated differently, things would have ended up differently. we're talking about hindsight, but there's no question about that. Could things have been differently? Could it have been, less Jews murdered? Of course.
So what do you believe needed to be implemented that wasn't?
Well, first of all, there are two separate things. There's prior to the Holocaust.
Right.
There were people like Jabotinsky and others who traveled throughout Eastern Europe, throughout Poland, warning Jews to get out.
So you're saying they wouldn't have avoided their intentions to do so, but they could have escaped it?
So it's both things. There's the pre-Holocaust, where we're talking about history here in terms of Adolf Hitler, in terms of compromising with him, in terms of not realizing who he was, and so on and so forth. And then there's the part about the Holocaust itself, where, Hitler, talked about murdering Jews, right? And Hitler at one point said, I will let the Jews go. Here are the Jews. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted the Jews. Isn't that the truth? Nobody wanted.
He offered them to other countries?
Yeah. Well, in the very beginning, look, a lot of hundreds of thousands of German Jews actually left once they realized. It took them a good couple of years. Even the Jews of Germany, even with all the anti-Jewish legislation, it took German Jews many, many years when things got really rough that they said, we better get the hell out of here. And hundreds of thousands. Other than
escaping, what else could they have done to prevent this from even happening?
At that point, it was too late.
Or at which point could they have done what?
Well, I'm saying that the Jews in Germany, there was little they could do once Hitler came to power in January of 1933. Okay. And we knew about Hitler had written the book Mein Kampf in the 1920s.
Right. People weren't taking it seriously.
Yeah, he outlined. I'm sitting right here. I have the book Mein Kampf here. I read it when I was 18 years old. Okay. Hitler outlined, and by the way, it's not an easy book to read. It's not easy reading. And he outlined what he was going to do with the Jewish people. It was very, very clear. Wow. His hatred of the Jewish people is beyond anything we can describe even. That, it was like, in Nazi Germany, when the Germans were losing the war in 1943, 1944, they were losing the war, okay? They were
by the way, sorry, my Zoom is telling me that I have 9:43 minutes left unless I upgrade to Pro. So either I'm gonna upgrade right now, or we can restart another meeting after. So whichever.
Well, whatever you want. I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna press upgrade and see if it messes anything up.
Okay.
If it makes it difficult. Here, I'm upgrading. Continue. See. Here. I didn't anticipate this. Sorry. Okay, it's making me do a whole okay, so you know what? We're just gonna we'll if you're okay with it, I'll resend you a new meeting if it cuts
no
us
problem.
off.
No problem.
Okay.
So I was just saying that the hatred towards the Jewish people, Adolf Hitler and his minions, in 1943, 44, when the Germans were losing the war, they were losing. It was over. But one thing they were dedicated about, and didn't stop to the very last moment.
Staying alive?
To murder Jews.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Jews.
Not to the very last moment. They continued their policies of, Auschwitz and Birkenau and the other concentration camps. They were losing the war, right? Okay, give it up. Give it up. To the very last moment. The goal was not 6 million, as you know, but we know that the goal was to murder every single Jew in Europe. That was the goal, period.
Not in the world.
Well, ultimately the world, but that was where they started. And they did a pretty good job, 6 million, right? So, but this
And I
was
love
their
how
goal.
other people, they say, "Oh, you're not Middle Eastern, you're European. Go back to Europe." And Europe is like, "Get out of Europe." And then they're like, "Go back to Israel." No, Israel doesn't exist. You want me to go back somewhere that doesn't exist? Which one? Like, make up
Well,
your mind. It's really just what's convenient in the moment.
listen, the ironies of our history.
Yeah, and the
That even,
Holocaust never happened. I want the Holocaust to happen again. Wait. Did it happen or did it not happen? Because if you want it to happen again, I think it happened.
right, even after the war, right? Jews had nowhere to go. Yeah,
They
Jews.
weren't. They were going to.
The
What
one
is
place they could
Palestine?
go, Palestine,
Yeah.
the British controlled and didn't want Jews. They were protecting their interests with the Arabs. So Jews, even after the war, Jews went back to Poland, as you know, and Jews were murdered in Poland when they went back to their communities. They were murdered after the war in Poland. So, hey, listen, this is the reality. And today, right now, as we speak, the incidents of anti-Semitism in this country are at a level that we have never seen before. So what does that mean?
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's escalated so much?
I
Because of all the anger of other things, they need someone to let it out on.
Listen, I don't have an answer, why this happens the way it does. The Middle East, part of the excuse is, Israel. That's what, we love Jews, but it's Israel. And of course, when they go out and demonstrate, it's so clear where they're coming from, that it's hatred towards the Jewish people. Because if we support Israel, if we support the apartheid state, which is what they call it, then we are guilty. Then we are eligible to be attacked. So, like I said, Jews control things. Jews have so much power. Jews are this, Jews are that. It is, facts don't.
I would love to get in on the, I know they say like Jews control the world and they have all the money. I don't know. I'm Jewish and I'm still waiting for my control and my money.
You're waiting for your share, right?
Yeah. Where do I sign up? I don't
Very
need the
good.
control,
Yeah,
but I mean, unless I can do good, but I would love to have the money to.
But the facts don't matter. Just keep that in mind. Facts do not matter.
Right.
When you hate, it isn't like.
By the way, I'm afraid that if I allow it to finish instead of me to finish it, then the recording will mess up. So I'm gonna end it and restart it now. Are you okay?
Fantastic.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Don't forget what you're gonna say. Okay. Here, I'm stopping the recording. Okay. So too bad on you, Zoom, that you want to charge me $25 a month for no time limits. I'm gonna find my way around it. I don't know if it's like China controlled or something, but anyway, gotta live my life. So I feel like I interrupted you. Were you in the middle of saying something?
No, we're
okay.
fine.
Okay, I had a question for you. I think I don't remember verbatim, but I know that the Lubavitch Rebbe said something about how to combat anti-Semitism, and he was saying that as opposed to focusing on taking away the bad, we should, and I don't know if he was saying we shouldn't focus on taking away the bad, but I know for sure that he was saying that we should focus on adding the good, meaning that if someone is showing love to the Jewish people and is not showing hate, not just not showing hate, obviously, because you could be passive and quietly hateful or whatever, but someone that specifically is, on the side of truth or whatever, that to notice that, acknowledge it, make those friendships, and because whatever you focus on grows. So sometimes I wonder, I worry about like the balance, because obviously you have to combat the negative, but what is the balance of, okay, I want to focus on the good so it grows, and not like, because when we constantly say they hate us, I'm angry about it, if we're only saying that, then it almost, like, someone that might think we're talking about them when we aren't gets defensive, and now you have another hater. Or saying like blanket statements like it's the Catholicism or someone that's Catholic is like, hey, I didn't. Oh yeah, okay, now I hate Jews too. I don't know. I'm exaggerating, but you get my point of how do we make that balance?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I definitely think that every single person, every Jew, every person, everyone should be treated with respect, and have on some level some kind of relationship with our neighbors.
Of course.
We live in communities, whether Crown Heights or borough, or all communities. We need to get along with other people. Hello, good morning, how are you, regardless of who the person is, and so on. So I'm definitely 100% for that. But at the same time, there are certain realities that exist. I don't think in Nazi Germany or pre Adolf Hitler in 1933, it would have worked. We would have been nice to the Nazis, the ones who were following Adolf Hitler. Hi, how are you? I'm a Jew. I'm a good guy. So it's got to be
Kiddush
both.
Hashem.
I totally agree with you. Got to be both. And I want to mention about the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Catholics. I'm talking about the fact is that if you look at the history of Catholicism, it's not a very pretty picture when it comes to the Jewish people.
So are you saying
back,
it's not religion and it's not the people, it's the people that
yeah, I mean, look, if
the
you
people that used
whatever
religion for bad.
Yeah, listen, if you attend a Palestinian school, an elementary school, and you're taught to hate Jews.
Sorry, 1 second. The thing that was recording, I'm trying to make sure that it I just want to check and make sure that it recorded. What's the date today? 5/19. Okay, it looks like it's here. It says 12:46 p.m. that it finished recording. Let me see how. Okay, phew. Yeah, it's there. Yay. Okay, it's recorded. Okay. I just got scared that it wasn't recorded. Okay, continue. Carry on.
So what I'm saying is, like, if you're in elementary school, in a Palestinian school,
yeah,
in Judea and Samaria, and the so-called West Bank, and you are learning, right, exactly, and you're learning to hate Jews, terrible things. You're going to grow
impressionable
up.
Minds when you're young. You can just learn anything.
Precisely. If you throughout history, the church was teaching that Jews could not be trusted, etc. I mean, there's so much to talk about on that subject. People are going to hate. They're going to look at Jews.
It makes sense that people pass down generation to generation, but where did it stem from in the first place?
Well, it stems
biblical.
That's another whole story in terms of the history of the Catholic Church, where it all began. What happened? Yeah. Let's remember, Jesus was Jewish. He was a Jew. Okay, and that's a whole discussion. What happened? That we, the Jewish people, were blamed for things regarding
who did kill him?
Their God. Sorry,
who did kill him?
The Romans, not the Jews.
Why did they have stake in it? Why would they want him dead?
Well, that's not, you got to talk to people who are experts on the subject. Okay. But in those days, we're talking about in those days, people who the government felt were spreading things that were detrimental to the empire, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people were killed who should not have been killed, of course. So, that's another story. But the point is that the leaders of the church, going back 100, 200 years after Jesus, we, the Jews, became the enemies. And very often in those days, it was Jews who became part of this new religion who were upset that Jews weren't all following the religion. And we became the enemies. I mean, that's a whole different subject to go into details as to what happened. But the bottom line is,
like, you're ruining it for the rest of us. You should be following what they're doing so they don't hate us.
But if you read the history of the Catholic Church in terms of the Jewish people, and up until pretty recent times, surely through Nazi Germany, it's a very horrible, horrible story. By the way, it was the Catholic Church after the Holocaust that played a role, an incredibly important role, in helping Nazis escape. Nazis who murdered men, women, and children.
Are you talking about like Operation Paperclip or something? Or
I don't know what it was. I'm not familiar with Paperclip, but this is all part of history now.
That's something with like the Nazis coming to America and infiltrating like the government.
Not in
FBI.
America so much, even though there were people who came to America, but many of them went to Argentina, exactly, and other places. And the Catholic Church in Rome, bishops were involved. I mean, this is like mind-boggling. These are people who murdered men, women, and children, and they helped them escape so they could continue living after they took the lives of hundreds of thousands of people.
I have a question. Do you think? Oh, sorry. No.
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
I'm curious, and I feel like you'll probably say it's a combination of both, which I would agree. But I always wonder, like, you see these Nazis that sometimes they're young, and then in their break time, after killing a bunch of people, men, women, and children, in torturous ways, they would be hanging around with friends and girls and guys, mingling and laughing and talking like you would see any college frat house doing, and it looks so humane, and it looks so human, and it's confusing to the mind. Like, these people seem like normal, everyday good people. So you wonder, the famous experiment, Milgram, was it, experiments to show that anyone could be convinced of anything, but also is there sociopathy, like, okay, these people don't have a heart, or it's people that have a heart, and people that have a heart can be indoctrinated to believe that they're supposed to kill anyone or anything as long as you indoctrinate them in the way.
Well, propaganda. Goebbels, who was the propaganda minister in Nazi Germany, was probably one of the most effective practitioners of propaganda. When you create,
was he called a propaganda minister then? Because his title.
Yes. Yeah, he was a propaganda minister. His job.
He calls himself. I'm the guy that makes things up.
Well,
because propaganda, that's what it means.
Right. To us, it's a negative connotation. But what he did, and his ministry, was to present the Jewish people in the most horrific way possible, to the point where the only thing you could do, the only way, if you want to live, you German, you want to live, the only way you can survive is getting rid of Jews. And there was a whole, there's so much to look at and study, and where you can make people hate Jews to the point where even children have to be eradicated, because they'll grow up and they will become the future generations.
Well, that's the famous question. If you met Hitler as a baby, would you kill him?
Well,
it's a very...
look, what can I tell you? If
you're a psychologist, you would say, no, I would make him not traumatized.
Because the obvious answer is yes. I mean, if you knew that this guy was going to be responsible for millions of people, tens of thousands,
but could you make him a good person?
Would you? It's easy to say, yes, of course I would have done it. But people are not, so courageous to do the things that need to be done. So it's easy to say, yes, of course. But, who knows?
I would rather just turn him into a good person or lock him in the corner so he doesn't.
Yeah, well, I don't think, again, this is not my area. Right, you got to talk to psychologists. Can you turn the Adolf Hitlers of the world, the Eichmanns of the world, the Gorings and the Nazis? Yeah. Do you know that most of the leading Nazis, the ones who met at the Wannsee conference, where they actually planned the extermination of the Jews, do you know that I think it was 70% had PhDs? They had doctorates.
That's scary.
I see your reaction. Yes, absolutely. So anyone who thinks look, the more we educate people, the more educated they are, we don't have to worry about educated people. It's so not true. I mean, you can look at it in life, people that and it doesn't matter how many degrees you have. It's a lot more than just that.
I think that goes back to where when the rabbi was saying about it's like enhancing positivity, and then when you focus on something, it grows. So if, let's say, you were put in a position where you can have an impression upon them as youths, um, like it's a chance to not just the Kiddush Hashem, but like, you know, befriend and humanize the idea that of, you know, humans who are Jewish, that they are attempting to dehumanize in order to kill. Because if it's people with a heart, you first have to tell them, listen, these people aren't human. So even if you have a heart, don't worry. You're not killing fellow humans. You're killing parasites or whatever. And then only then they can do it
if you look at the
conscience.
propaganda material that was put out, Jews were portrayed as rats. Jews were portrayed in the ugliest imaginable way. Day after day, year after year. You know, they made it up. It didn't matter. You know how people are. You know, you see something, someone says something about you, they see a piece of paper on the floor that talks about you, or they see something on social media.